Hello viewers, this is Jordan Golson joining you from my Tesla Model 3 Performance running full self-driving 13.2.8, and we start off with this tricky left turn, and you can't see it from this image, but it's actually on a curve, so the visibility in both directions is not good, but the car does excellent, pulls right out. And actually the trickiest part of this drive for me was getting the windshield wipers set to the right speed. As you can see, we pull up behind this car and the spray is just everywhere. Luckily, I have Rain-X to my windshield, and so it works great and I can see well, and basically I slide between this sort of intermittent speed and one that's sort of more continuous. But this visibility that the camera picked up is basically just what I was seeing, and if you look on the screen in the middle on the Tesla, it can see all the cars coming the other direction, even the ones that don't have their headlights on, which is more than can be said for me. But it was just a generally gross, rainy spring day. Now, I pressed the button on the steering wheel to change lanes, and so I just press the turn signal and it slides right over, moves up next to this car in the lane next to him, because I don't like being behind people when it rains. I'd rather be in front of them. I go to press the brake pedal to encourage it to speed up a little bit, and it turns out I didn't even need to. It did it on its own, and it pulls out right in front of this guy, and then I'm not behind him anymore, and so I have a little bit less spray for a few minutes. Then we move over to this next stretch of road, and you can see that the speed problems that Teslas have had with full self-driving recently on some versions of version 13 are gone here. This is a 55 mile an hour zone, and I sort of let the car figure out what it wanted to do, and it was fine. The spray is gone here, and it's just driving along and being completely happy. Here we have a trickier left. This is basically turning left onto a divided highway. That car goes, and then you can't see it on the screen there, but there is traffic coming in both directions, and so the car just sort of sits here and waits, and then once things are clear, it then proceeds forward and merges into the lane. This is all very good. I have not touched the steering wheel at all other than to change the windshield wiper settings. There it goes, and the traffic was all clear. I was watching both ways, and it does sort of like touch into this left-hand shoulder breakdown lane, and then it merges smoothly, which actually is fine. It felt really natural, and all of this just felt like exactly how a human would do. Now we're turning left into McDonald's. It stops at the red light, makes a nice little turn, and the places I've seen it having the most trouble have all been in parking lots, and it does okay here. And it pulls in. It's going maybe a little slower around this corner than I would have done. You know, there's 8 miles an hour there you can see on the screen. The guy behind me was a little agitated that I wasn't going faster, so I do take over, and I pull up here to move to the side and get out of his way so he can move on to the drive-thru, because I'm not in as much of a hurry as apparently he was. So I pull up and get my food and then set my destination. You can press and hold and it will back out right from the parking spot. And so it waits for that car to go by. You can see it in the mirror there. Then it backs up on its own, goes into reverse from pressing the button, backs up, and then shifts into drive and moves forward. And now this is where we do run into a little confusion with the car around parking lots. Is it's supposed to turn left at this stop sign, then go straight through the next intersection and then turn right. And it gets a little confused here, and it goes to turn right into the rest of the parking lot. So I grab the wheel, take it up here, and then reactivate full self-driving. There you go. You can see on the screen when there's the blue line and the rainbow road indicator that is when full self-driving is on, and you can also see in the screen or in the line running around the car that full self-driving is on as well, because that's rotating through the rainbow road colors. Now this is the best system to use while eating in the car, because you can just look forward out of the windshield and sit there and eat your McChicken, and you don't have to touch the wheel or do anything. You just keep an eye on the road, make sure everything looks good. Going along here, everything looks great. The car changes lanes automatically. It slides, by this car turning left and just drives along. Everything looks good. And you can see on the screen there, it sees all the other cars on the road, sees them coming the other way, sees the ones up ahead. Everything works fantastically here. This was automatic. I didn't have to press the button to change lanes. It just saw the cars ahead and saw the right-hand lane was open, and it slides over. And actually, the light turns green right here. And so it just continues on forward. It was seamless. Went around those cars who were stopped. That I really liked. Now, this is interesting. It's actually one of the harder stops I've ever felt with FSD, and I don't know if it's because it was wet outside or what, but the light turned yellow and then red, and it started to slow down, and then it had to slow down a little bit harder than perhaps it wanted to. Here, we have to take a left turn up ahead, so it turns on the turn signal, but there's a car in our blind spot, and so it starts to slow down. Then it starts moving over behind that car. Then it moves over one more lane behind this guy who's slowing down. And it actually, what it should have done is pulled into the left lane earlier to make the turn, but that was a very human-like thing, and it kind of cut off the car behind him, but it all worked out pretty well in the end and got to where it needed to go. Now we're getting on the highway, and we move over one lane. We're still behind that same car we turned left behind. Then we move over another lane, and you can see this is exactly what the weather looked like for me. It was rainy, there was spray, there was fog. The visibility is really quite poor, and it's important to remember that the Tesla full self-driving system does not use anything but vision cameras. It's just the cameras up ahead, or up above my head by the rear windshield mirror that are looking forward. And it does really well. This was kind of interesting. It stopped and gave a little warning and said, oh, visibility is poor. It gave one beep. Those of you who have had older versions of FSD would know that it might beep every 30 seconds through this sort of weather. But all it did here is it slowed down the max speed to 65, which is still above the speed limit, I should note, and just cruises along at 65, even in this poor weather. Now up here, you can barely see the cars that are ahead, but if you look again on the screen in the middle, the car sees all of them and is happy to show where they are and cruise along at 65. And just, terrible weather, but the car is perfectly happy. So this is a tremendous test of the camera system in the car. And, the windshield wipers are going. The Rain-X is working fantastically. My visibility on that side is pretty terrific. Here, we enter into Massachusetts from New Hampshire, and the speed limit increases from 55 to 65, and the car resets its maximum speed limit from 65 up to 70, and then you can see here it slowly begins accelerating up to 70. Now, I didn't know that the max speed was 70, but when the speed limit changed, it sort of recalculated what it wanted to do, and went from 65 for a max speed up to 70 of a max speed. And there we go. Now we're cruising on the highway again. You can see the weather is still pretty terrible, but the screen sees the cars and everything. Now here's someone who was not using FSD. This is a bit later in the drive. Guy comes up on the right and passes and cuts in between us. And it's like, okay, this guy's kind of a jerk. It was actually closer and faster than it looked in that video. Guy was just driving like a jerk in the rain, but that happens. Here we are now merging onto I-95 from Route 3, and we move over. The right lane's going slow. We're only going 45. It signals to move left a lane. Waits for this car on the left to pass, and then slides over smoothly, and then continues to slide left because we're going to be on this road for a little while. Sits here for a moment until that lane clears, turns on the turn signal, waits for the truck to move out of the way, and moves over. Now my hands are just there on the wheel because this is actually the worst weather I had seen yet. Still waiting for cars to get out of the way. The turn signal's still on, and then it finds a spot and smoothly slides over into it. You see, it's a really nice lane change. It's slow and smooth, but it turns on the signal, waits until there's an opportunity, and then moves into it. And here it does the same thing again, turns on the turn signal, slides over, and accelerates into traffic. So I am in hurry mode right now. There's 3 different modes in the speeds, and I basically, living around Boston, I just leave it on hurry. Here we're now going 70, and that 70 max is the speed that it decided was the maximum speed it was comfortable with. And this weather is getting even worse. My hand is not on the wheel, But if you look up ahead, you can barely see some of the cars. This is why you turn your headlights on in the rain, people. It is so much easier to see a car with its taillights on. Look on the right, you can barely see some of those. But I took a picture here. The important thing here is, like, you can barely see those cars up in the distance, but if you look on the screen in the center, the Tesla sees all of them and renders them and reacts to them. And this just shows how good the vision system is in the new hardware 4. This is a brand new Tesla. I bought it in September of last year, and it is just doing a fantastic job. Change again here, and just the rain is terrible. The visibility is not good, and I'm, concerned enough about it that I've got my hands ready, which most of the time I don't do because I just trust the system because it's so good. But we're just driving along, and here in the rain, it does a fantastic job. It sees the lane lines, nothing questionable is going on. It's just driving like a regular person, which is more than can be said, actually, for a lot of the regular people driving around. So, it just got worse and worse and worse. More and more rain, the sort of spring New England gross rain. It's in the high 30s, so it's pretty bad. When it started in New Hampshire, it was even sleeting a little bit, but it's just, pouring down rain. Windshield wipers are doing a great job. Rain-X is doing a great job. It sees that dump truck there on the right, shows it on the screen, and that's a lot of what I'm sort of showing in these clips is just the weather's terrible, but the car does a great job. Now we're going to get off the highway, so it moves from the left lane to the right, and we've got a little bit of a tricky situation here. There is a lane coming in on the right side that you have to merge into. You can see that car on the right, and you can see on the screen down below again, the car sees everything that's going on. It sees a car to the right, and it turns on the turn signal. You can see from the water kicking up that visibility of that camera is occluded, but it doesn't complain. It just keeps going, waits for that car to get out of the way, slows down, moves over. Great job there. So all of this very seamless, signaling to the other cars that it's pulling over. It's doing a great job driving, again, just like a human would, and that's sort of where we are. Here we come up to this stop sign at the end of the exit ramp. It lets the car in front of us go, stops for 3 seconds for NHTSA, which works out great because we just merge into this traffic. Slowly behind this car, there's another car behind us, and basically at that intersection, people just take turns. One car goes, then the next car goes, then the next car goes, and FSD did a great job here. Here I'm just adjusting the windshield wiper speed to try and figure it out because we're not driving as fast. Now this is pulling into my destination here, and we go through the red light driving along, and this is an unprotected left going across traffic. And what happened was this car stops because it sees, the turn signal turns itself on, and this car slows down, and actually the person waves at me. The car doesn't see the wave, but it sees them slowing down, so there's enough time to take the left, so it just does it. Fantastic. Here, I take over because you can't auto park directly from FSD yet, so you have to disengage, then press the parking spot you want on the screen, and then park, and it does it for me. Eventually, a future version of this, you'll be able to set a parking spot that you want to park in, and it will pull in and then back into the spot automatically. It does a great job. FSD absolutely killed it here in the rain. I am so impressed. Version 13.2.8. Anyone who tells you that vision only can't do a great job is lying to you. I hope you enjoyed this. Drop a like, leave a comment below if you have any questions. Thanks so much for watching. Drive safely.